Hey everyone, welcome to the bonus video where I'm going to be speaking a bit more information about Shark SUP, their materials, their processes. I hope you've watched the main overview video that I've already put together. That is a bit of a big one, but this will give you a bit more information about materials that Shark really wanted you to know. Now, the first thing to speak about with Shark is Shark are very much a brand and a factory. Now, the good news about that is if you're a brand that owns your own factory is you can put improvements and changes into your boards very quickly, and you can also keep an eye on what's going on in the factory all of the time. And that does make a difference to the quality of boards. Now, there's no doubt we know other brands that haven't got their own factories, but they still have good quality boards, but they have got to be on it and they've got to have somebody in that factory all of the time watching what comes out. So definitely having a brand that owns its own factory is going to keep the board quality much higher. And also they have more of a vested interest in making the products better because they need people to keep buying the products. Obviously, if nobody bought Shark SUP, they wouldn't have a brand or a factory and they'd be out of business. So that is a noteworthy point to think about with Shark. Also, I think this is potentially why that nose cone has come together, I think, so well. So that's a patented nose cone that they've got on those boards. But what's amazing about those is how well that nose cone fits onto those boards. Just the way that slips on and off is really simple, really straightforward. And I think that's one of the telltales you can see where you have a brand that owns its own factory, making sure it just works 100%. As I touched in the video, Shark have always been really into the fact that rider height equals board width, rider weight equals board thickness, and board length equals performance. And that's why you have a relatively big range of boards this year. But if you do break it down into like I said in the video, you can end up getting it down very quickly into more of the board you're after and the specifications you need to get the most out of it. Having a large range of boards in those two different thicknesses does give you a lot of choice, but it's so much better for you, the rider, when you've worked out if you need a 5 or 6 inch thick board. But if you want to make a 5-inch thick board that paddles well, because it is a really important point to note that Shark SUP have made 14-foot race boards in 5 inches of thickness. Now, that's quite a big thing to do that. And the way you can do that is making sure the quality and the material quality is in the board in the first place. So now I'm going to give you a bit more background information that Shark have given us about the substrate that wraps around drop stitch. So we're talking about knitted and woven fabric. So this is the fabric that holds the drop stitch together. Now this fabric comes in a different denier, a different thickness, and also the laminated layers that go on top of that are going to change as well. Now you might have heard other brands say 500 denier knitted drop stitch. Now that is what you would class as, I would say, the traditional fabric. Now I'm not talking about the PVC that's on top of that. This is just the fabric that's holding that drop stitch. Now 500 is a lighter denier than obviously 1000. 1000 denier is a more dense fabric and it is actually heavier overall as well. Now most brands and cheaper brands will select to use 500 denier because it's cheaper to use. Factories find it easier to find. So a lot of the cheaper based brands, a lot of the supermarket brands will be using 500 denier. Now 1000 denier is going to be stiffer. It's going to offer you more performance. It's going to be slightly heavier, but it's going to be better for your paddling experience. So all of Shark SUP's boards are 1000 denier, but they are between knitted and woven. So you've got your drop stitch core, which is then encased with the woven or the knitted fabric. On top of that fabric, then you have the PVC, which is then applied. Now, this is applied in very much a liquid form. And this is why when you have a woven board, it has a tighter weave, and the liquid PVC that goes onto that board absorbs less into the woven material, which is why it's lighter. The knitted material has more gaps in it, and the liquid PVC that goes into the board goes into the gaps and fills up those gaps and then puts more weight on the board. Now that at that point is single layer woven or knitted material. To have a second layer on top of that, the traditional way of doing it, they would put glue on that and then just stick another layer of PVC on top of that. The way that Shark and some of the other top brands do it as well is what you might hear of fusion, which is where they melt another layer of PVC on top of that, bonding those two layers together. Gives you a much lighter board, a much stronger board, a stiffer board in general as well. And that's the difference between your Roam board and your Flow or Plus range of boards. So the Roam is single layer on top of the woven, and your Plus and Flow boards are double layer of laminate on top of that woven or knitted fabric. Now this woven fabric as well is less stretchy than the knitted, so you get a better quality board as well. Now with all of these things, whether you're looking at 1000 denier, woven, knitted materials, it's all about the quality of the material. Now this is something that Shark have said to us, and they want to make you aware that there is a big difference between different factories buying different materials at different price points. And this is where they believe a lot of the cheaper based brands are wrong to put them into production, and they want you to be aware that there is a difference in the price point between 1000 denier from a certain brand to 1000 denier from a different brand. And it's all about how available and how easy those factories can find those materials. So a top end 1000 denier, whether it's woven or knitted, is harder to come by and more expensive. So therefore, a lot of the cheaper based factories, so they might use the 500 denier, or they might even use the 1000 denier, but they use the lower quality one as well. It's a lot easier to find the cheaper based stuff than the top end stuff. Now Shark do agree that there are some great top end brands out there that are using good quality materials, and generally you do get what you pay for when it comes to materials in boards. If they are more expensive, they've got better quality materials. Now I want to touch on Shark's triple rail and the welded rail as well. Now Shark believe that welding a rail is the best way of getting a solid, well-made board. A welded rail is where the rail, the top and bottom of the board is pulled together. There is another 1000 denier, in Shark SUP's case, rail put on top of that, and then it's welded, melted, that material is melted to the top and bottom layer, making a completely airtight board. And then they place another layer of material, 1000 denier material on top of that, and then it gives you 3 layers. So you've got the rails come right round in what they call the C-curve weld design. So the rail comes around, the welded substrate on top of that, and then they put another layer on top of that. So Shark do speak about a lot of that in their website, but what they don't speak about is actually a lot of their boards have another layer on top of them if you're looking at the Plus or the Speed Plus range of boards, because they've got that carbon strip down the side of the board. Now it doesn't go down the full length of the board, but when it comes to putting your board down on the rocks and in the car park, that's another layer that's going to keep your board super strong and tough. Now this C-curve design that Shark have basically got on all of the rails of the board, they say it actually makes the board sit a little bit lower in the water because it's a more rounded shape, and therefore it's going to give you a better paddling experience as well. Whether you're looking at the 6 or the 5-inch thick board, it's got a little bit more curve to it than the boards that aren't welded in that way, when they bring the top and bottom layers in as close as possible. If they leave a bit more of a gap, straighter edge to the board. It's a small difference on paddling, but it will make a difference to the overall feel of the board. And Shark also speak about the quality of the glue that goes on top of the welded rail, because the internal band that is on the rail is welded, but the rail that goes on top of that is not welded. And they use a good quality, environmentally friendly base glue that goes on that, and that gives that board that extra hard wearing rail. So there's a bit more information there from Shark about the materials and things you need to be aware of. And hopefully it's giving you some ideas of, and if you're going to be buying a board from another brand, the questions you should be asking and the information you should be getting from that brand before you buy a board. Definitely quality of materials and quality of the process of how you put those materials on is key to making sure you have a board that lasts the longest and gives you the most performance. Now without a doubt, Shark have definitely put that into their boards, just from our point of view, from riding them, from seeing them, from picking them up, from weighing them, from doing the deflection tests of them. You can clearly see that Shark have put that into their boards. But I hope you found this bonus video interesting and informative, and it's given you a bit more understanding about what's in the Shark SUPs and potentially what's in other boards as well.